It's called Philly Rescue Angels. I know these people personally. These women have put themselves in some really, really terrifying situations going to rescue these animals. They've traveled across state lines to get dogs. They are doing tremendous work that I don't know that I'd be able to do because I would be heartbroken every single day. And I know that they often cry themselves to sleep from the situations that they see and just encounter almost on a daily basis.
But we don't want to take him to the shelter, and we're left to keep your dog. Do anything to keep your dog, because I'm telling you, that's where your dog wants to be. It doesn't want to be with a rescue or in a home that it doesn't know or a shelter scare. Keep your dog. Just try.
Attachment, like you have that much of a detachment from any kind of care and compassion that you could just literally act as though it's like, oh, my bottled water, I'm gonna throw it in the trash. It's the same thing as a dog, like, oh, sorry, we can't take it. We really want to, like, that's insane. You know, I know that you guys are like flooded with bills. I can't even believe half the things that you guys do, like, and your hearts are still in one piece. That would be a fucking disaster every day.
There's not even a way to make the amount of animals that get in, like that get dropped off and intake is crazy. People need to do better.
Welcome everyone to Krystal Tini TV. Today I have Dr. Jaban Moore, who is located in Kansas City, Missouri, and he works virtually with clients around the world. At age 25, he went from being an award-winning athlete in college to feeling like he couldn't even get out of bed. He went to a lot of appointments, looking for answers, spent what felt like endless amounts of money, which I have done on tests and appointments, but doctors only wanted to give him Band-Aids that would not get to the root cause of anything. He was later diagnosed with Lyme's disease, and he dedicates his practice to helping clients get to the root cause of their chronic illness. Dr. Moore specializes in Lyme's disease and co-infections, PANS, pandas, autism, heavy metals, parasites, gut health, mitochondrial support, and other viruses and pathogens. Sounds good to me. I've been to so many different doctors to try and heal my gut, heal myself. And so I wanted to interview Dr. Jaban. I met him when I was at the Health Freedom for Humanity event, and we got to talking, and he's absolutely brilliant. So welcome to Krystal Tini TV. Oh, now you're set. It's good to see your face, though. I haven't seen you since the event, not the Truth About Cancer, the Health Freedom for Humanity event when we were in that little party just chatting. But ever since then, like I started following on Instagram, and like I love your content. It's amazing.
Well, thank you. We do a lot of work on that. This week has been phenomenal. I flew in almost all of my virtual staff who helps me with all of that.
What?
And this is like the first time I've met half of them, like in person anyway. God. And no, we've just been really hanging out. They just walked out the door. So.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Okay, good. So I did your intro. So Julie will edit everything out, but I already did your intro. So we can certainly get started. I'd love for you to just introduce yourself, what you do and why you do it. And then we can get started on your journey.
Yeah. So introduce myself, why, and all that. So yeah, here we go. So I'm Dr. Jaban Moore, and I am a functional medicine practitioner. I'm a chiropractor in Kansas City. I do most of my work virtually these days, about 98% or so of it virtually. Right. And I'm doing this and working with people who are chronically ill. So whether that's with mast cell, SIRS, mold, or Lyme toxicities, I'm working with the chronically ill, the people that are really, really sick and just aren't getting answers. I've been to 20 other doctors, and I'm doing this because honestly, it is a passion for me. I had Lyme. When I was 25 years old, I ended up getting hit with erectile dysfunction, and doctors just told me, hey, sometimes that just happens. There's a pill for that. Go for it.
Right.
And I just looked at them and I was like, no, I eat healthy.
Yeah.
I work out. I'm fit. I'm
Mhm.
young. No.
Right.
And I went on the search and I finally ran into some people that suggested Lyme, knew nothing about it, didn't even know how to
Mhm.
help it, that were other practitioners.
Right.
And I was like, okay. So I kept going on the search and got to a guy who helped me. And within a few months or a few weeks, actually, I started feeling better. A few months,
Mhm.
I was significantly better.
Mhm.
And I mean, to me, it was like having that be what hit me as a male, as an athlete, as an all-American athlete.
Mhm.
It felt so deflating. And as a Midwestern boy, where we're taught from a young age, like, you go to school, you get a job, you find a wife, you have a family. I was like, am I ever going to be able to connect with my wife, like my future
Right.
wife? I wasn't married at the time. I was like,
Mhm.
am I just going to be single forever? Like, is this no family going to happen? Like, I mean, I've gotten emotional about this on interviews before because I just felt trapped.
Yeah, absolutely. That's devastating. What, how do you get Lyme, or like, how could you have contracted Lyme?
I mean, I'm a guy that likes to go outside, right? So the conventional wisdom says Lyme disease comes from a tick bite,
Right.
but the reality is it comes from almost any sort of organism biting you, whether it's a spider, flea, tick, mosquito, whatever.
Wow.
It can also be
Okay.
passed from mother onto child. There are some people that are talking about, is it sexually transmitted?
Mhm.
There's less evidence, and honestly, I see that less in my practice than I do the other two. But those are the main tick-borne vectors are insects or from mothers.
Okay. So what are some of the symptoms, or classic symptoms of Lyme's?
So classic symptoms of Lyme are going to be migratory pain or migratory symptoms, right? So you get what feels like arthritis in this wrist for a couple of days, it goes away and it moves over to this elbow, and then it might
Mhm.
go to your knee. So migratory pains like that. You get headaches that come and go, especially toward the back of the neck. You can get numbness or tingling, muscle weakness, but it doesn't necessarily always stick, right? So it might be this hand for a while and it goes down to the foot. These things don't follow neurological patterns from the brain.
Okay.
Whereas like MS would be one side, Lyme isn't like that. However, there is a tremendous amount of evidence and it continues to mount. You can go to PubMed, look up Borrelia, which is what Lyme is,
Mhm.
and MS, and you'll find all kinds of studies on it. There's a few where they did autopsies on brains from people who had MS and after post-death, and
Mhm.
they found 25% of those people had Lyme in their brain.
What? Why is this such a mystery illness that like people just can't figure out?
A big portion of it comes down to the testing. So the CDC in about 2015 came out, I believe it's somewhere around that year. They said, we've got 25,000 positive tests with our test. So we know 25,000 people got Lyme this year.
Mhm.
We think it's more like 300,000 to a million because we just know that our test isn't that great. And we know that some people just aren't getting tested. So it's known that we just don't have the mechanisms to test for it because the test is designed, right? It's designed to test your immune system. Do you have an improper immune response? And then you come in and get Lyme. Well, if you wait a few weeks after being bit, your immune response is going to start to come down.
Mhm.
If your body's immunocompromised from the Lyme itself, your immune system's not going to show up appropriately. So then there's other testing that's come out that's better now, not accepted from modern medicine right now, but it's better. So Vibrant America, DNA Connections, IGeneX are the companies that have done it, and they're better. They're not perfect.
Mhm.
And they do PCR testing, so DNA testing. They do immune testing, but they also add some other factors into their immune testing that allow for those potential errors that the CDC test isn't, as being positive. So they give you a more likelihood of catching it. But honestly, Lyme disease at this point with the technology that we have is more of a clinical diagnosis. And if you don't know if you have Lyme, but you have chronic symptoms, why not just find somebody that knows what they're doing, vet them, make sure that they're knowledgeable, and go in, let them treat you for Lyme for a few months, see if it makes a difference. If you've got chronic symptoms, what do you have to lose? For
Yeah.
myself, that's kind of what I did. I went in, I said, Dr. Lindsay, I think I got Lyme. We did some testing, sure enough. And then we just went after it, but I'd already driven to Wisconsin. I was already in. I was already like, hey, I'm driving up here. I'm on a college budget. You just start treating me, just get me better. Yeah, he did some testing to confirm some things, but I didn't care. I was like, just rule it out for me.
Yeah. So what did your treatment look like?
So he's more of a natural guy. So we did some frequency specific technique stuff, which is electrical current using Rife-like frequency. So that was one of the things that he did. Along with that, he did fuel, or he gave me the proper nutrients, vitamins, minerals to build my mitochondria, because your mitochondria suffer under the endotoxin, so the toxic material that Lyme releases into your body. And then we did antimicrobial herbs for Lyme and a couple of its co-infections. Some of those herbs like Japanese knotweed, astragalus, black walnut. So there's a few of them. There was dozens that he had formulated into a formula. And I did those things, plus the frequency specific technique, plus we did some other things. Like I've talked to people like infrared saunas to help to increase the heat. So your body creates its own fever inside, which can help burn it out. So I did a number of those things, and I did them consistently for a few months. And that's what really made a change for me.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. Whenever people have any kind of illness and you go to naturopath or more holistic route, if not in 2 weeks or a month, they're like, this isn't working, I don't feel good. Like I had candida. I think I spoke to you about this at the party that we were at. And it took 6 months to a year for me to fully feel better. Like after 3 months, it was like, okay, I have a little bit more energy. Like I feel good, but I had to stay with this regimen that I had for well over a year for everything to really normalize. So I'm sure that you see that with patients, or they'll say like, I'm not seeing anything. And, do you notice that a lot too?
Oh, for sure. I mean, like I said, I'm working with some really chronic people, been to 20 docs before me. And when those people come in, they ask me, well, what's the outlook? And I was like, for somebody that's near bedridden, pretty miserable, 18 months to 2 years, which is a long time. Right. It doesn't mean you won't see progress. I usually say it takes about three protocols, which a protocol is roughly 4 to 6 weeks to see some change, where you notice there's change. And then it's just slowly about 10% a month after that starts to fall away until we're out at that 18 months and you're like, I'm pretty good. And I'm like, yeah, we're kind of cleaning up. Your blood looks good. Your urine tests look good. Your hair tests look good. Cause I do a multitude of testing along with the things we do in my clinic. And then I'm like, okay, let's talk in 3 months to see where we're at. Let's do some things to just maintain you, such as, again, like vitamins, minerals, stuff that keeps your body healthy, immune support, not necessarily anything antimicrobial or detox anymore. And then after that, I'm like, okay, let's go 6 months. And then from there, I teach a lot of just healthy habits, like doing a biannual cleanse of some sort. We live in an incredibly toxic environment. I was just reading an article yesterday, which is something that I constantly am preaching about. 170 million Americans drink radioactive water. It's going to suppress your immune system.
Like radioactive water, meaning like water from the faucet?
Yeah, like your tap water. If I look at EWG, Environmental Workers Group, and I look on there and I just look it up, published by the EPA, uranium or radon in your water, the stuff they make nuclear bombs out of in your water.
Can you imagine this? Wait, so Jaban, what kind of water do you drink?
I only just drink distilled water because it's the only type of filtration, the only one that removes radioactive elements. And how I know this, I test people for it all the time. And the only type of water that doesn't keep making it worse is that. I mean, I wish I could tell you reverse osmosis or something else would pull radioactive elements, but I just don't see it. So if you're one of those people where it's in your water, distillation is the only way that I have found that cleans it out. I'm sure there's some other type of filter out there somewhere, but none that I've ever tested or seen.
Okay. So do you distill your water yourself, or do you just buy distilled water? Yes.
I do have a distiller because I don't like plastic either. So at first I would go to the store for $1. I could buy a gallon of water and carry it home. And I live in a condo. So going up all the stairs and elevator and everything, I'm like, this is crappy. So I bought a distiller, but plastic jugs have their own issues, right? So people don't want to have plastics, but I'm like, would you rather have plastic or radioactivity? I was like, I'd rather take plastic on that one. It's not good for you, but it's an either or. And then I bought the distiller. Now it's from stainless steel to glass, and that's my water.
Yeah. How much does a distiller cost? Because I know that's people will ask that question. So
Yeah, I mean, you can find a few that are very small that honestly for me was too annoying to do on Amazon for a couple $100.
okay.
And that will produce something like a half gallon every 2 or 3 hours. So for a single person, if you want to continue to change like the container, because you got to put the
Mhm.
water in the thing, then it distills it. It takes a couple hours to do that, and it puts it in a container, because distillation is the process by which you heat water, it evaporates, and then it gets
Mhm.
filtered, and then you drink the water.
Okay.
So it's a longer process because it's such a good, clean way to do things. The one that I got is bigger. It was actually about 1,500, but it has a 4-gallon tank on it, and it does about a gallon every 2 hours. So I can keep up with my staff and then my own personal use for my business, because I needed that bigger thing. And I did not want to have to change the water, fill
Right.
it, move it. I'm too lazy for that, too busy for that.
Yeah. Exactly. It's too time consuming. Okay, so that's good. So next question is about depression. I'm
Mm.
sure you've seen an uptick in depression for the last, several years with all the craziness that's been going on. So how do you test for that? How do you treat it?
Yeah. So I just like to take a step back when people ask me about mental health, and just take a moment and let's make this known. Moments of depression, sure,
Mhm.
natural, normal. If you have an event, your dad dies, that's tough. You can have moments of depression. I'm not talking about that stuff and what I'm about to go into, right? Anxiety when you have a huge test coming up and it's going to change a big portion of your life. Having a little anxiety for that, that's normal.
Normal. Mhm.
What's not normal is to be depressed, severely depressed, or even some depressed constantly, even though you have a decent job, don't need for a whole lot. You live in a westernized country where, we got it. You got a TV, you got a car, things are okay. They may not be as good as you'd like them to be, but they're okay.
Mhm.
You're just depressed, even though you've got good relations and people around you. That's not normal. Being so anxious that you don't want to leave your house, you don't want to talk to people, you don't want to be in public, you can't move forward with whatever it is in your life that you want to. That's not normal. So there's a difference, right? So I wanted to clarify that. Depression and anxiety are massively stimulated by inflammation in the brain. There are so many studies to show this, that inflammation in the brain leads to depression and anxiety, to the point of which turmeric a few years ago went off the charts in sales, because they showed in studies that taking a little turmeric reduced inflammation enough in the brain that you could see a change in depression, which is small stuff, right? So that's why CBD got popular, because it changes things to some degree. If
Mhm.
you've got Lyme disease, parasites, toxicity of pesticides, herbicides from our food and water, if you've got fluoride from your water, which is a known neurotoxic chemical, if you have radioactive elements or mold is one of the worst things you can run into. Mold in your home coming from your water damaged walls is one of the absolute worst. This goes into your body, creating toxicity, which triggers cytokine storms, which is inflammatory markers that create inflammation, that when it gets to your brain, that encephalitis, autoimmune encephalitis or inflammation, there's a few different types that you can get, triggers depression and anxiety. And we're seeing this constantly with conditions like PANS. PANS is one that I work on with kids, right? So imagine having a 3 or 5-year-old walking into you and you're the parent, and they go, "Mommy, I don't want to live anymore."
Right. Wow.
Where does that idea come from?
Right.
They don't know what that is. They don't even
Right.
know what that means, but it's
Mhm.
coming out of them because their brain is sick, it's inflamed, and their brain, their primal instinct is like, I don't want to be here like this.
Yeah.
They get angry, they get irritable, and these are kids that don't know any different. And it's
Mhm.
happening to their brains, and we can see it. I can test it. There are tests for this, like a Neural Zoomer Plus from Vibrant America, like a Cunningham panel, where you can see this autoimmune encephalitis. For kids, it's termed PANS or PANDAS in some cases, but
Yeah.
it happens to adults too, which is just that inflammation. So yeah, I'm seeing a massive uptick in it from the chemicals in our environment, the chemicals that are being put into people, the environment by which we just live in. It is off the charts, and depression is the #2 reason people miss work. The #2 thing that causes disability. #1 is pain, back pain.
Jesus. So how do you treat that? Is it all different, or do you go for a certain, I mean, I'm sure it's different for all people depending on what they need, but are there certain things that I have to give these people minerals, or I have to give, is there a certain protocol that you have?
So I do an extensive amount of testing before somebody sees me, just so I get an idea of what they're dealing with. And I'm building out a course that I'm just going to be emailing out to my patients. Like day one, you call me, you get on my list to be seen. Here's this course that's going to start emailing to you. And it's information. I'm just going to run through some of these ideas, right? So one, do you live in a home with mold? Mold is unforeseen, unknown for so many people. 50% of buildings have mold damage. Mold is neurotoxic. It is used in biowarfare. It is used in medications. They take the molecule of certain types of mycotoxins, they turned it into a pharma drug, and it suppresses your immune system, allowing for you not to reject new organs that have been transplanted into you. That's how powerful it is.
Jeez.
So mold, if you're living in it, you're going to be depressed and anxious. Eventually. It may not be initially, right? So if you're like, just the last few years I've been getting more and more depressed and I don't know why. And I go, okay, when did you move into your home? Oh, 3-4 years ago. When did depression start? 2-3 years ago. Okay, this is part of it. Some other things, dental work. If you have metal in your mouth, like you can see metal in your teeth, like an amalgam, right? A silver filling. A silver filling is mercury, or at least part of it is. Mad Hatter's disease, we've known about for 200 years. If you touch mercury a bunch, you go crazy. It causes depression and anxiety, yet they still put this in your mouth. The whole countries have outlawed this. United States, we still allow it. Why? The American Dental Association, guess what they have a patent on?
Mercury
amalgams.
Alrighty. It's the criminal empire just doesn't, the hole just goes so deep with this.
So, and then root canals. Root canals is another one. What is a root canal? It's a freaking zombie tooth. You kill it, right? You kill it by killing the root, and then the tooth itself becomes a corpse that then fills full of microbes that can live in it. And then they burrow into the bottom of it, and they burrow a hole out, which causes a cavitation, a hole in your mouth. And then you've got this black gum crap that's inside your jaw bone.
Yeah.
And this also happens with wisdom teeth, which, by the way, the nerves in your jaw have a straight line to your brain. There's no protection. So if you have a cavitation, a root canal, mercury, it has straight access to your brain. Normally, for everything else that we get our hands into, there's a protective mechanism that wraps around your head called the blood-brain barrier, but not in your mouth. It goes straight in. And by having these things in your mouth, then that chemicals go into your brain, creating that depression and anxiety, those symptoms. So dental work, mold, it talk about trauma. Did you have childhood trauma? If you do, 80% of people that had childhood trauma end up with an autoimmune disease.
Yeah.
Massive issue here, right? And then from there, I start talking about what sort of chemicals and toxins are in your house. So your perfumes, your hair dyes, your skin products, your shampoo. If you read the bottle and you're going, benzo, something, something, I can't even read those words, don't put it on your body.
Yep.
Don't put it in your body. Don't cook on it. Don't smell it. So those are some of the things that I start with. That's like my starter kit, right? So like, let's just get us in a safe environment to live. Let's take away the things that would hold you back from healing. From there, since we started off with Lyme, from there, I use things like Cellcore's product, which is IS Bore. It was designed with herbs that are great for being antibacterial herbs. I use detoxification support, so supporting your liver through things like milk thistle, glutathione, and binders. And then I go in and I support your mitochondria by giving it food like D-ribose, L-carnitine, and then CoQ10. Amongst that, making sure we have the proper mineral balance and vitamin balances in our bodies, because you need to have that full picture. You need to rebuild, you need to detox, and you need to get rid of anything that's going to cause your body damage, because I could go deep into the biochemistry, but those toxins, they get into your cells, into your powerhouse, your mitochondria. They get into the cycle, the biochemistry, which is your Krebs cycle and your electron transport chain, and they jack it all up. It's like pouring sand into your engine. We can talk chemistry, but that's basically what's happening. And then it just locks up and stops making energy. Without energy, you don't have immune function, you don't have reparative function, you don't have the ability to think, move, live. There you go.
Mm-hmm. So with the mental health aspect of it, when it comes to, like, say, bipolar, schizophrenia, all those things, are they all caused by the same thing that you were just talking about, the inflammation and things like that?
So I can't make an all-inclusive statement where I can say all schizophrenia is caused by brain inflammation. Right. But there are studies that you can look up that associate mold like mold outbreaks in like bread with schizophrenia.
Well, how much of that do you have to eat to get it? I mean,
so people are going to be different, right? So we have different genetics. So for me, my genetic makeup, I can detox quite a bit. So I can go sleep in a moldy room, and a night or two, I'm going to be okay. Whereas my wife goes into that moldy room, and we're going to spend 3 weeks getting her back to normal. Yeah. So we're all a little different.
And that's because of why? More toxicity in her body, or what?
More toxicity, but also just genetics, right? So if you look way, way back into genetics, there are people that are a little bit more aware of their environment. So we call them a little more anxious, right? So when we were nomads and we were camping out on the, out in the wilderness, they're a little more able to hear something coming. So when that mountain lion's coming up on our camp, they notice it. Or if they drink some water out of the river and there's Giardia in there, they get really sick immediately, but they don't die from it. Whereas somebody like myself, who doesn't notice any of that, who would sleep right through a mountain lion, I'm dead. Right. I'm going to get that Giardia and I'm going to take it until it kills me before I have a symptom. So there are different types of people that genetically survived on purpose because we all made part of our tribe survive.
Yeah, I'm definitely a symptomatic person. If anything at all is wrong with me, like I'm symptomatic. I got really sick with EMFs. They put a little small cell above my apartment in LA, and like within hours that night I was sick as a dog. And anytime I was in my apartment, I was very, very sick. Same thing with Candida. Like I had so many symptoms, everything. I'm a very symptomatic person. One other question, when you were talking about the fillings, I've read, and I'm not sure if this is the case, that those mercury fillings can also cause MS.
Yeah, so inflammation in the brain definitely can lead to that. Mercury can cause demyelinization, which myelin is the wrapping around nerves. And when it demyelinates, that's a mess. So you get lesions. So because you can now see different tissue coloring in the brain, and mercury can absolutely, if you get in your brain, there's studies to show that it's leading to MS.
But it's okay. It's still legal in the United States. So why don't we just go ahead and keep filling your mouth with all those things? It's insane.
Let me give you a fun, this is amazing. This would blow people's mind. Mercury, if I'm a company, I ship it to your dental office. I've got to ship it in a container that has big skull and crossbones on it, hazardous material. You can't, if it spills on the street, we got to call a hazmat team. You don't just let it wash away. You call a hazmat team. So then it goes in the dental office. Then we put it in your mouth. And once it's in your mouth, it's safe and it's cool. We're good. And then if you ask me to remove it as your dentist, when I remove it, I can't throw that away. I can't put that down the sink. I got to put it in a special place, to a special waste container, that when I give that waste container, I have to pay the right people to come get it. And then they have to track that waste container forever because we have to know where all that mercury is going.
Oh my God, that's just insane. But people don't know this stuff. So that's why we need to talk about it. And some people don't even know what a mercury filling is. If you open your mouth and there's silver in there, it's probably mercury, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Silver fillings, they don't want to call it mercury filling. Why? We all know mercury's bad.
Right. I remember we had the thermometers, the mercury thermometers, the old school ones, and they broke, and like my mom freaked out. She's like, don't touch it, it's poisonous. And those were like the little tiniest particles. Yet you have a filling that is, this big, bigger than anything that was broken out of a needle. Just live in your mouth, live in your system.
Yeah.
for your whole life.
And it never stops off gassing mercury. It never stops. Like it literally off gases into your body forever. And they can prove it. They literally can see vapor coming off of those teeth for 50 years. So if you've got one, you're like, it's been there for 10 years. It's done. I'm not getting it out. No, it's still off gassing. It's still causing problems. And by the way, never get it out unless you go to somebody that absolutely knows what they're doing. Not any dentist does that. You need to go to people that are certified. There are certifications, and I can't remember them off the top of my head, about proper mercury amalgam removal. And when you go in there, if you don't feel like you're at NASA with like suits and air, like pulling proper air out of your mouth and dams to protect you, you're in the wrong place. Run.
Okay, that's really good information. My one girlfriend did get hers removed. She had like a ton of them in her mouth, but she had so many issues all the time. She's like, I don't know what's wrong with me. And she got them out because she had these spots all over her body. Like she's had a lot of different things going on, and she finally got them removed. But she said it was like a crazy process, just exactly what you described, because of how dangerous it is to be around that kind of poison. And
Yeah.
I know I've also heard that when you chew gum, also that's really bad with the off gassing and stuff. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, you're just stimulating the gums, trying to stick to it and pull it and pull it and pull it. I mean, you're just stimulating it. But the worst thing you could do is have a different metal put in your mouth. So
Right.
it turns into a battery. So if you've got like a gold tooth or a gold cap over top of a mercury amalgam, or if you have silver or braces or whatever other reason you'd have metal in your mouth, it actually creates a charge between those metals, and it accelerates how fast the toxins are coming out. So you're literally generating a battery when you have multiple metals in your mouth. You don't want any metal in your mouth, but you definitely don't want multiple types of metal in your mouth. The only type of metal that I'd put in my mouth if I knocked a tooth out would be a zirconium tooth, which is a very biological, at least biologically harmonized metal for the body to where it's not going to cause the damage. I would never ever do titanium or any of the mercury amalgams or nickel plated stuff. I mean, it's not worth my health.
Absolutely not. What else do you like to treat? We don't have that much time, but what else? I mean, is there a specific thing that you are known for treating? I know Lyme's is one of them. I know you talk about mold a lot, toxicity. Is there anything else that you would like to highlight?
Yeah, parasites is another huge thing that I work with. I did an entire summit on it, and parasites are literally everywhere. We all come in contact with them. I don't care if you're in the United States or Western Europe, or it doesn't matter. We all come in contact with it because we also eat food from around the world, and they're in our soils. If you have a dog, cat, cow, horse, whatever animal you have, you deworm it once to twice a year. It's normal practice because it's appropriate. We are the same. We're in the same environment. I guarantee you, most of us feed our cats and dogs food that is checked more for parasites than our own. If you eat a raw steak or a raw piece of fruit or vegetable, you probably have had parasites go into your system. It's that simple.
Right.
If you're healthy, your body can fight it off. If you're unhealthy because you have mold or yeast or stress or trauma or mercury amalgams.
Yeah, not so great. So with parasite cleanses, I have never done a parasite cleanse. I've done a lot of other things. Right now I'm taking Strataflora. So it's anybody that's dealt with fungi and all that kind of stuff, or candida things. So I'm not having like any real detoxes. I am able to go a little bit better. But as far as a parasite cleanse, like when people hear that, they're like, oh, I'm not doing a parasite cleanse. Do you see parasites come out of your body? Like, what does that look like?
You sure do. I could get graphic, but they're dead. So you've killed them. They definitely come out. Sometimes you got to look for them. Meaning like you got to go in there with your chopsticks and break up the stool to see it if you got it for them, but you definitely see them. If you've ever had a crazy night where you had too much alcohol, you might've seen some like tomato skins or some white little dots when you didn't have rice or tomatoes. That's probably a liver fluke and you flushed it out by drinking too much. Not a good parasite cleanse, by the way, but it's something that people have reported to me. And if you have a candida problem, if you have a candida yeast problem, a fungus problem, there are usually 3 reasons that people have it and why they can't get rid of it. Because candida honestly will regrow in 24 hours if you're not treating it. I've seen this. It's you have a parasite, you have mold, or you have radioactive elements, which radioactive elements are water, mold from your walls, or parasites from your food. One of those 3 things is keeping your candida going. If you don't have those, candida goes away.
Right. I wonder what that was for me that I don't know. There was a lot of emotional stress. Like I had adrenal fatigue syndrome at that time as well, which was horrendous. I felt like I was 1,000 pounds at all time, plus the whole candida thing. So that I finally went to a holistic practitioner, and like at one point I was literally like starving myself to death. You're like, well, you can't have bananas, you can't have this, you can't have that. I'm already vegan. So it was like I was literally living off of nuts, and I don't even remember like one other thing, like crackers or something crazy. But then I finally found someone that knew what the hell was going on and saw that my adrenals were completely depleted, and that offset my hormones and all that other stuff. And I got better. But again, it took over a year to do that. But I'm interested in a parasite cleanse. So do you have any recommendations for that, or do you do all different kind of things depending on the situation?
You know, if a person comes into me, I'm definitely going to custom fit everything to them. I do have a course on my site, on my Instagram, on my link tree that you can get to. And if you want to do one because you're healthy, or if you're wanting to experiment with it, it walks you through what to do, how to do it, what some appropriate type dosings are, when in the month to do it over the full moon, and then what possible side effects are there, because yeah, you could have a detox reaction if you do too much. So I definitely lay out how to make sure that you're doing it appropriate for yourself and starting low and slow and not being super aggressive.
Okay. You are such a wealth of information. Jaban, how old are you?
35.
My Lord. But I respect you so much. Like every time I see your Instagram, like I repost your stuff all the time because it's such great information. So whatever you're doing, just please keep doing it. Hopefully we could do an Instagram live so that we can get your word out to even more people. And hopefully you can clone yourself into 15 people. But thank you for your time. And if there's anything you want to add, like where people can find you or how they could book with you.
Yeah. So if you want to find me, everything I have is Dr. Jaban Moore, and I have cloned myself. I've trained now 4 other practitioners, and I just had 28 in my clinic I was teaching a course to them because there's too many sick people, and my only mission is to spread this information and give people the informed consent to make the decision that's going to best suit and fit them. And by training other doctors, it can help. So if you want to find me, Dr. Jaban Moore on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, my website, YouTube. So yeah, Dr. Jaban Moore, wherever you're looking.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And I will catch up with you to link up to do a live, because I definitely want to do a live with you when you have time.
Absolutely. Can't wait. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon. Let's see how fast it takes you to answer this. I did it from my computer. Joel, he's late by 6 minutes. Why? Yeah. Now I'm annoyed. You still didn't look at it, Joel. It looks really good. I love that. I was just talking to myself on the Zoom, and I was literally going over how people should light themselves for a podcast and frame themselves, because Jaban, I can't tell you how many people, like literally half their head is showing. You can't see them. They're in a black room, and it's just like, I don't know. I don't understand.
I got a microphone. I got this in for no echo, but I was probably that guy.